So I'll just call you guys to join me in welcoming Shereese. If you please come to the...
Pressure of being the first person. I saw up my joke, I'm nervous. Okay, so my name is Georgette. Like you've seen, my topic is natural language processing for legal document review, categorizing deontic modalities in contracts. Don't worry, I'm going to explain everything. So for this presentation, I'm going to quickly just give you a background about my project, tell you about the aim, objectives, all that boring stuff, the methodology, the results, and finally, the fun part, the demo. But before I begin, oh my God, what am I doing there? It's not up there, I'm doing it on my computer. There you go. Yes. So my first question to you is, anybody, what percentage of a lawyer's time do you think is spent reviewing contracts? Anyone?
20%.
20%? One once, one twice, anybody else?
18%.
18 or?
80.
18, ooh, oh. One more? 50. 50, one more?
99.
Well, if you look at this last image, that's essentially what a lawyer does, and it's actually 50%. Half of a lawyer's time is spent buried reviewing contracts, and I can personally attest to that as a lawyer. 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. You probably spend half of that reviewing documents, whether it's like a merger and acquisition deal. You're reviewing contracts with hundreds of pages, and when you're done doing that, you do it again for the second client, the third client, and who pays for all of this? The client. So the client is paying by the hour, and so even though the lawyer is reviewing, and you're getting results, it's taking too much time to get it done. And that's pretty much the basis of my project. How do we cut that 50% down to 18% maybe? 5%? Let's find out. So quick background, like I said, contract is a repetitive process. We just sit and review, and the aim of the contract review is to identify problematic legal sentences. These are known as norms, and norms are expressed using deontic modalities. Essentially, a deontic modality is like a permission, obligation, or prohibition. So a permission would be an entitlement. You could say, Femi, you may walk on the grass. So he could choose to walk on the grass, but he doesn't have to. Obligation is a duty. You have to do it. You must pay your taxes. You must walk on the grass. And a prohibition now is like the negation of those two. You must not, you shall not walk on the grass. If you do walk on the grass, even though you're not supposed to, it's a violation, and you're usually supposed to pay a fine, or you could go to jail. So that's the basis of deontic modalities. And so when a lawyer reviews the contract, that's essentially what they're looking for, and deciding what the legal risk is to the client. Now, with machine learning, we could automate or even semi-automate this process, and so reduce the time spent by the lawyer reviewing the contract, and therefore reduce the cost to the client. You see where I'm going with this? Trying to get rid of the jobs for the lawyers. And so the aim of my project essentially is to use machine learning to review contracts by classifying sentences based on deontic labels. And deontic labels, permission, obligation, prohibition, remember that. The objectives are a lot of them, but basically it was pretty much finding the best machine learning model for my task, which is a text classification task, because we're trying to classify the sentences, comparing what's called domain-specific and generic pre-trained word embedding techniques, creating the gold standard corpus, and this was done by manually going through contracts and making the data. And finally, pre-processing all of this and pre-processing, training, and assessing our model using accuracy, precision, and ranking loss. And of course, in the demo, you will see that I designed an interactive interface that just demonstrates what the final thing could look like. Methodology, so like I said before, annotation, data creation. We heard from Alexandra, data. Everybody wants to do data science, but data creation is a very important part of that. Without data, you can't do the other steps in the data life cycle. And so I pretty much had 29 contracts, and I got 6 experienced lawyers and a law student. Thank you so very much to everybody, big up, to help me annotate these contracts. So we went through the contracts sentence for sentence and determined whether or not the contract is a norm or non-norm. And if it's a norm, we decided whether it was permission, obligation, or prohibition. After all of this was done, I then went through all of these annotations, calculated what's called the Cohen's kappa, which pretty much tells you how accurate the annotations were, and then created a final version of the data set, which is the gold standard. And I had 2 data sets, one for the binary task, which is determining if the sentence is norm or non-norm, and then a multi-label task data set, which determines if that sentence is permission, obligation, or prohibition. After all this, I did some EDA, that's exploratory data analysis and preprocessing using Pandas, NLTK, stuff like resampling because I had too many obligations compared to permission and prohibition, tokenization to cut those words down, lemmatization, and vectorization, which is very important for natural language processing. It's essentially converting those words to a language that the machine understands, so ones and zeros. Finally, training and testing. I explored with the traditional machine learning models such as logistic regression, support vector machine, and also some neural networks, the convolutional neural network, as well as the CNN with law2vec word embedding. You might have heard of GLOV, FastTech, or Word2vec. This is the law version of that. And then LSTM. And of course, I tested these models using random loss, precision, and accuracy. And finally, the results. The annotators, there was substantial to almost perfect agreement amongst the annotators. This means that they properly interpreted my instructions when they were annotating the contracts. And in terms of the model performance, the support vector machine was the best performing traditional model, while the CNN was the best performing model overall for both tasks that I did. I also found that the CNN with law2vec pre-trained word embedding did not improve the results, which might be because, I don't know, data set size is always an issue, and my data set was 1,664 records and 360, so pretty small data set, only 29 contracts annotated. Finally, I can quickly get this done and go back to my seat. So I'm going to show you a demo. I created an application using PyWeb.io, and it's just to show you what it could look like, or what how this application could be used in an actual complete package for lawyers or clients. So it's called Contract Viz, and it's essentially going to accept a sentence, do some cleaning, and then tell you if the sentence is norm or non-norm, and then what tag it is. So here we go. So here we just have some terms and conditions that you have to accept. To the left is a contract. And I'll pause here to say the first sentence I copied, and it's not pausing. Okay. The first sentence copied and pasted is just a non-norm. It doesn't say you should do something, you must, you shall not. So it should not actually come up as permission, obligation, or prohibition. And there you go. It says, sorry, this thing keeps moving quickly. 1 minute, please. Yeah. It says, sorry, this sentence cannot be classified. And it means that that sentence doesn't say you must, or must, may, or must not do something. Moving on, I'm going to show you where I copied another sentence, which is a norm sentence, and so it would be classified. So to the left is just my going through the contract and copying one of the sentences that would fit. This contract also was not shown to the model or to the program when I was training and testing. And there you go. It says the sentence you provided is this, that's the tag, and there's a disclaimer saying that it's not legal advice. And finally, it's going to show you that the program is capable of doing multi-label classification, which is predicting more than one tag. So if you have a sentence that has a prohibition at the start, and then followed by a permission or an obligation, it should be able to give you both. And I'm showing you right now. There you go. Scroll down, it says obligation and prohibition. And the rest of it is just some fancy stuff, such as telling the user what is a norm, what is a permission, and giving you a link to read more. And finally, I'm out of time. I just want to say thanks to everybody, the Atticus Project, for providing the data. All my annotators, Andreen, Kate Edison May, Odane, Ryan, and Tishana. Thank you so very much, Tish. I love you, love you, love you. And all my colleagues who helped me to do this. And special thanks to Sade for her continuous support. Thank you so very much for listening to my presentation.
Absolutely fantastic. So lawyers, there's something that is coming out there soon. Contact Georgette. He's going to help you with all your contracts. Have we got any questions, guys? Andy?
Yeah, I love the little, this is not legal advice, but that was cute.
Always have to put that there.
So you're doing, this is deontology, very useful for identifying interpretations and stuff. How would you like to develop that to incorporate, as you said at the end there, definitions, structural knowledge, identities and things like that?
So thank you for your question. There are many uses for this application. So it's very basic because it's just identifying what the deontic legal is. Potential uses of this would be, firstly, in terms of lawyers using the application, you could further develop it to do some sort of norm conflict identification. So if at the start of the contract you have a norm that says you must walk on the grass, but then later on it says you must not walk on the grass, that's a conflict because which one are you actually supposed to observe? And so if you're able to identify this conflict, it would be really useful to the lawyer. On the side of the client, if a client were to use this for himself, then it would be useful to do a further NLP task, such as text summarization. So it would somehow convert the legal jargon or the legal language to, a language that's understood by the layman. Because lawyers, they love to fluff and put a lot of words that nobody understands. So I think those are two potential uses in the real world.
Fantastic. Just 5 minutes or one more question. Yeah.
Good demonstration and an excellent presentation. Thank you very much. I noticed in your software demonstration that in each assessment there's a line at the bottom, a disclaimer, that said all this information should be checked by a lawyer. Is that somewhat counterproductive by having to do that?
Thank you for the question. Actually, it's not, because the purpose of this is just to show what could actually be done in practice, and it's for my project. So that has to be there, so everyone here knows that you can't just text me and use my app and get legal advice. But in terms of scaling this project, of course, if we were to, for instance, the Atticus project who provided the data set, I did speak with them and they were actually excited about it and wanted to do it on a larger scale. So in that case, if we did it larger and made it more accurate, for instance, then definitely we'd be able to remove that disclaimer.